I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Renee, would you like to call the roll, please?
Renee Manita to do the roll call. Karen Andrus.
Here.
Carl Baracco.
Here.
Derek Botana.
Here.
Sherelle Cluck. Here. Joseph Cruz. Reggie Henderson. He appears to be absent. Ron Inge is
Here.
present. Christy Knight. Here. Matthew Lincolnhall.
Here.
John Paul.
Here.
Christopher Robin.
Here.
Elaine Sarlo. Here. Sawyer Smith looks to be absent. Shane Spring.
Here.
Andrew Sun.
Here.
That's a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have the minutes that have been distributed for the meeting of August 16th. If everyone's had a chance to look at them, we'll entertain a motion for approval or any additions or corrections thereto.
Motions to approve?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sund. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Acquisition review. We have two items on the agenda. The first one is nomination 631 on Pine Island. Mr. Clemens, please.
Nomination 631 is a 10-acre tract. It scored 41 points. It's adjacent to existing 2020 properties, and staff recommends to forward this to the board for acquisition consideration.
Yes.
Can I make a motion or not?
Let's take public comment, and then we'll
Okay.
do so if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that.
No, that's okay.
We'll hear from staff, then ask questions of staff if we have them. Then we'll ask for public comment, and then we'll take official action if necessary. Cheryl,
Our question time?
please.
Okay. So is that a ditch on there? What is that?
There may be some mosquito ditching in there, and probably is.
Yeah, it does.
I see some of the stuff on here that talks about some water quality. Were you guys planning on any water quality projects on this piece in conjunction with the other piece? Or is it just strict purpose?
I think because it's that coastal area, it in itself is the water quality aspect of it.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff before we take public comment? If I may deviate just a bit, Mr. Henderson, thank you for joining us. This is Reggie Henderson, a new member of the committee. And thank you, sir, for coming, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. That's our pleasure. All righty. You've heard about nomination 631 on Pine Island Road, a couple of questions on it already. Would anyone in the public care to address the committee relative to this proposed nomination? If so, please come to the podium and speak. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Is there any action that the committee would care to take?
I'd like a motion to put it forward.
Motion to move forward with the suggestion that the board consider it for acquisition. Do we have a second?
Okay.
Second by Ms. Cluck. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is a combination of 4 nominations, different numbers. They're owned by the same owner. So for simplicity, staff has put them together for consideration because they're all owned by the same owner, but they're different parcels. So that's why they have separate numbers, and you can see them on the map. So, Mr. Clemens, if you would update us on this one, please.
Yeah, these are 4 5-acre tracts of land in the Crew area. The score is 79 points. Again, staff recommends to acquire these since most of them are adjacent to existing conservation lands, be it FDEP or South Florida Water Management, and possibly Lee County. I don't think Lee County has any, but the state agencies own lands adjacent to these properties as well. So therefore, we recommend to go forward for approval to proceed with acquisition.
Karen?
I just wanted to say we've had a long-standing policy two, thank you. I'm getting old. Policy to acquire all the crew lots that we can. So I'd just like to make a motion to send it forward.
If we may, let's take public comment first.
Okay.
So hold on to that. Any other questions of staff from anyone on the committee? Seeing none. Would anyone in the public care to address the committee on nominations 492-3, 493-3, 494-3, or 633-2? If so, please come to the mic at this time. Seeing none, we'll go back to the board. Ms. Andrus, I think you were going to make a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to put them forward.
We have a motion to move forward. Do we have a second? Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Joseph. Any discussion? Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item is staff and committee updates. The first item we have is just a brief update on the acquisition status. Now, the reason I believe that this is important is from time to time we tend to forget all the things that the committee and the program has accomplished over the years. So it's always good to step back and take a look and just see what has happened for our benefit, but also for the public's benefit as well. Mac, are you going to present this?
The land acquisitions update, the status of each location.
Just give us an overview of, Robert, were you going
I was
to?
going to say, we just pretty much put the map together to be self-explanatory and put it in the package so people can see. And you can also see in the package here how many of these 2020 parcels are contiguous to other agencies or other conservation lands as well. So it all ties in really well. But if somebody in reviewing the map have any questions, now or in the future, feel free to send me an email and we'll address it.
What I would like to know and put on the record, if you would, is how many acres has the program acquired to date?
31,432 acres.
Very good. I remember not too many years ago, we celebrated 30,000 acres. So now we're another 1,400 or so beyond that. So again, just to make sure that we recognize a lot has been done at the request of the taxpayers when this was formed and when it was funded. And that map is a pretty good indication of some things like Robert mentioned or tie into other conservation lands as well. So thank you all. Any questions of staff or any comments relative to the map or status? All right, seeing none, let's move on. Management status report, update on a couple of areas and then maybe overall.
Okay. Overall, we want to cover a lot of our sites. Some of the sites that we used during the storm when Hurricane Ian came through, we want to cover some of those, just give you guys an update where we are at some of our locations. For the storm debris, we use 4 different sites. A&W Ball, which is Deep Lagoon, Pine Islands, Flatwood, Sanibel, which we contract out with them, and also Frank Mann. We had a meeting last Wednesday, I think it was, with the contractors. They're in the process of redoing everything, putting everything back to its original state. But Frank Mann is one of the ones that we're still using for Abel Canal dredges. We should be done with that dredging. What date is we scheduled for that?
I believe it's later this month. They'll be done dredging Abel Canal, but we don't have a date on when they'll be removing from Frank Mann, but they will be.
Yeah, so once they get finished with the Abel Canal dredging, we'll just clean up Frank Mann, and we'll keep you guys posted about that once they finish that process. And also the land management plans that we have, I think we had a request about that also to give you guys an update. Our team is in the process of potentially updating all the management plans. And once we have that finished, we'll give you guys an update once we get all those updated. Emily, she's working with the 2020 coordinators to get that process started. I think a method we use to treat exotics in the preserves, we use chemicals. The contractors that get that particular contract have to do a 95% success rate. And that's just not done. They have to go back again, make sure it's up to par at a 95% success rate. Frank Man Preserve, we just covered that. Pine Islands, Flatwoods, monitoring wells. I think we have a request also to give an update on that. The Pine Island Flatwoods Preserve report states that the level of arsenic remains below the recommended levels.
Below or above?
Below. The iron levels spiked out. They spiked up but have returned to the historic levels.
Excuse me, can I ask how often you're monitoring them?
And how often do we get that report in?
We get the report twice a year, I believe. But they monitor constantly. We just get the report twice a year.
The contaminant levels are stable and not rising or migrating to other parts of the preserves, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. Larry Kiker, I think it was a request also to give an update about where we are with that. We're in the process of still consulting, I guess, to figure out what we're going to do. We're looking for grants. I think one of the things that we're doing, too, is locating the berm. Correct, Roland? We're working on a berm. I don't know where we are with that. Do you have any updates on the berm?
Yeah, I'll give a little.
You're going to cover that? Okay.
That would be great.
But that's where we are with the locations of 2020 properties.
Questions of Mr. Young before we go to a presentation on Larry Kiker? Any questions? Mac, I might have one.
Yeah.
When you mentioned that the contractors are restoring those areas, excuse me, that we had for debris storage because
Yep.
of the storm, are they, I'm sure, removing everything, grading? Are
Yep.
they doing replanting and such?
Yes, they're going to put the soil, the grass back like it was before, any special flowers, anything like that. We asked that question last week also. So how far are you guys going with it? They're going to try to restore it to its original state.
And so then y'all, before you sign off on it, you'll do appropriate
Yep.
site review and everything else to make sure you get it back to the original as we could.
Absolutely.
And then Frank Mann, you said you're still using that.
We're
for a
still
bit.
using it for Able Canal dredging. Yep.
Okay. Any questions by anyone on the committee?
Sure, I'll probably lose it.
Turn it over to Mr. Ottolini to talk about Larry Kiker.
Yeah, if you could advance the slide for me. He's got the mouse. Okay. As you may be aware, Lee County is pursuing a project that involves Kiker Preserve as well as lands east through the Crew Flint Penn Strand area. And this is a graphic from our Southern Lee County Flood Mitigation Plan that shows basically the conceptual of the project. And just to start you out, this is the Kiker Preserve area. Now, where's the removal tool? There we go. And then this is obviously the flows for Crew Flint Penn. And so what we're looking at is creating a low-level berm along I-75 corridor, perhaps even using the I-75 road berm. They're getting ready to do some expansion out there, so we may tie into that. And then bring that berm along the southern end of Kiker Preserve, and then take it along this proposed development called Bonita Grand Mine along the eastern boundary, and on down to the Kiel, just the north side of the Kiel Canal. And the concept there is that historically a lot more water went west or southwest towards Halfway and Estero River. And through linear development over the years 75 and 41 and all this development there, it's really restricted the ability for the historic flows to move west. And so what's happened in time is water's been shunted to Bonita Springs and therefore overloading the Imperial River and causing a lot of flooding along the Imperial River. Now, granted, there's a lot of homes along the river that the city is pursuing to removing from the floodplain, and they've had success in doing that in some cases in the past with grant funds. But the idea here is, sure, we've looked at some improvements downstream. Halfway Creek, there was a crossing that was blocking the flowway, so we removed that. There's some things you can do, cleaning and snagging of creeks, removing obstructions, but by and large, without a lot of conveyance, your only other option to help reduce flooding is storage. So we're looking at this basically a low-level berm that's running along this, like I showed there. And we're talking about maybe 4 or 5 feet high. So we're not looking Don't call it a reservoir, because what we're doing is trying to just temporarily slow the water. If you say you get a 10 inches of rainfall out there, you want to be able to kind of throttle that water back, kind of hold it back, but then release it in structures west and south to the historic route to try to kind of mimic what historic conditions are, but without overloading the system downstream so that you could help abate some of the flooding. So the idea is you don't want to keep a permanent pool. There's no desire to keep a permanent pool of water out there because that's storage loss. You're really not gaining anything. Other than that, there's a possibility or potential for helping the hydro period, because there's a lot of over drainages in some cases. The water management districts have done a lot of work down here trying to restore some historic flows through filling ditches and removing roads. So the idea is to make this a kind of a multi-benefit project, water quality, water conservation, and flood protection. So the key component here, we're pretty much moving forward with this piece, Kuiker Preserve. It can be stand as a standalone project. The next section is going along this Bonita Grand mine. And right now, there's a proposed development. They're in for their permit. They have a berm along their eastern perimeter because to protect their properties from water coming in. And what we have worked or working with them is an agreement, basically a public-private partnership, where we pay them to build the berm a couple feet higher. So they're already making an imprint out there along that perimeter, and we're asking, can you build it a couple feet higher? We'll pay you to do that piece. We're saving a lot of costs and a lot of wetland impacts, because if we had to push that berm further east, as you can see, that gets into the Crew lands, and that would be a lot of impact, which we don't want to do. So here's an opportunity, basically, maybe less than $1 million, $750,000 versus a multi-million-dollar effort that we'd have to do otherwise, besides a lot of mitigation. So along with that, the agreement that we're working with is they're looking some concessions from the county. There was an easement that we had to vacate, but maybe perhaps we could advance to the next slide unless you have any questions on the project.
I actually have one question about Spring Creek.
One sec. How did I clear this? Back?
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, okay. Go ahead.
According to your illustration, there looks like there's a berm that's cutting off Spring Creek's. I know 75 is a natural divide, but I know there was talks about putting a culvert on the new project to possibly get some of that water to flow naturally like it did into Spring Creek, which the mouth of Spring Creek is the last intact seagrass beds in Estero Bay. And I know we've had this conversation before.
That would be initial our desire to reconnect that. As you said, the 75 never put in a culvert along that section, so they basically severed that watershed historically. And the cost to do that, as well as the problems with downstream, I mean, it's really restricted. I know the city is looking at that golf course, then they're doing some water quality improvements within just west of 75, but we don't see where there could be potential for additional capacity of sending water in that direction. So we're going with this current alignment that we have now.
Well, there is a culvert underneath 75 now, I believe. Is there not?
It was severed. And there's further one down towards Bonita, but they never made that connection underneath 75.
But there could be discussion on that if there was funding somehow done.
Well, the thing is, introducing more water into Spring Creek, there's many compromised properties downstream in Spring Creek, so you're actually putting a burden onto them already where they're being flooded.
Would entertain that.
Pardon?
The developer, Collier Enterprises, and the city of Bonita Springs would entertain a partnership there. I know that.
Yeah.
Council and the residents of Bonita Springs would like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've coordinated this project with the city, with their public works department and also their assistant county city manager. So this is where we're at, I think. So with that, this takes us to this piece of property that's part of the development that Bonita Grand Mine. They want to build a roundabout along Terry Street. So if Robert, you want to take it over from there?
Yeah, again, as Roland said, this is part of the project with the berm. If you'll, just to get you oriented correctly, where it looks like a Z, that's actually an N. So we're looking at, the larger yellow piece is a northeast quadrant of Bonita Grand and East Terry Street. And where it says Pine Lakes Preserve is the southwest quadrant of this intersection. The city is wanting to put in a roundabout, and will be affecting about 1,200 square feet of nomination 119, which is Pine Lake Preserves, and it's less than an acre of a crew parcel that fronts at the northeast intersection. So, in working this out, it all ties into the overall proposal that Roland was talking about.
Now, are they going to pay for any repair to fencing and anything with that?
They will take care of the costs associated with this. There wouldn't be a purchase of the land, it's just all tie-in.
Yeah.
Any further questions on it, or any other questions on that?
So we build the berm, where's this water gonna go? Is it gonna go south to Big Cypress?
They'll still go to halfway Estero, but north and south branch, and also Imperial River. The idea is to temporarily throttle that water back or temporarily store that water back and still release it to the places where they currently go, but at a slower rate. It's basically flattening the hydrograph. The duration would be a little longer.
You're just damming it. You're gonna have the water sitting on top and you're just damming it, and it's gonna sit there until a little bit flows through or it goes underground.
We'll have gate structures that will control the amount of water. Yeah, some will percolate as well. Or evaporation is also.
Any additional comments or questions? Mac, I'd like to ask one on Larry Kiker. I think you might have touched on it. You're working with, I think you might have said, if I might have misunderstood, contractors on what you're looking at, what your vision is. What do you envision other than the berming that Roland just talked about? What are you thinking about doing all that you're going to do there with Kiker? What's your overall goals as opposed to,
Well, there's some concepts out there right now that we can't talk about right now because they haven't been approved yet, but just to have some areas what the community can use on Kiker. So we haven't got that for yet.
Because I know that very thing you mentioned was something that folks were sensitive to, that there's the ability for public access and some limited usage, of course.
Right.
So that would be very good that you have that in there.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Who is gonna maintain this berm? You increase the water level, because right now, let's be candid, the Conservation 2020 lands, a lot of them have not been managed properly. For example, the palmetto berries being, stolen and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you build this berm, you increase the water level by whatever it is, 3 feet. And if it's not maintained and that berm breaks, then we're going to have a natural disaster that's probably 10 times worse than Irma.
It will be. We manage our projects now in terms of water control features and structures, and a lot of that will be integrated into park management. And we're going to coordinate corridor roads, park access roads, things of that nature that are going to be. It's going to be try to be multi-purpose as much as possible. So there'll be a lot of eyes on these structures and the berms themselves. Now, the one when it goes down to Bonita Grand Mine, we're going to have an agreement. They will actually maintain that because they're going to want to make it look pretty and mowed all the time. It's going to be part of their development, so that's going to be a much more stringent than I would maintain it. They will take care of that, but provide us access so we can see if there's any kind of structural issues. Now, a couple 3 feet, I'm not really worried about any kind of piping issue or breaches. It's not really a lot of hydrostatic head on there to really create some kind of a major breach that could potentially harm properties or life. So I'm not really worried about that. But because it's the width of the berm is so large.
So it's really tight.
I was just wondering where the money to maintain all this is going to, whose pot is it going to come out of?
See how much I can get out of 2020. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be part of our CIP and operations. I mean, every project we build, we have a budget for maintaining those projects too. It's just a separate CIP.
Any additional questions or comments?
When we bought Kuika Reserve originally, it was also for water refurbishment to the aquifer, correct?
Yes.
So this is going to help with that, with slowing the water down, allowing it to percolate down instead of getting washed out, where it gets washed out.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Any additional comments or questions, please? All right, let's move on to any other committee member items. Does anyone on the committee have any other items they'd like to speak of, or speak about, excuse me, at this time? I do have one. I'd like to thank Christy Knight for chairing the meeting. It's interesting to note that Shane and I, after being elected, decided we would not come to the next meeting. So thank you very much for bailing us out. Appreciate it greatly. The next item on our agenda is public comment. I have no cards. However, would anyone care to address the committee? If so, you're limited to 3 minutes. Please come up and speak.
Good evening. My name is Holly Schwartz. I'm from the Eyes on Conservation 2020 Committee. A couple of us shifted over here thinking we could hear better, and it's not better. So might be some people that want to speak over there too. Real quickly, we wanted to, again, welcome Mac, and we're really looking forward to working with him. We haven't bombarded him too much with a whole lot of questions, but one of the things that we saw that was just passed with the Board of County Commissioners budget was a static management amount for management of the preserves. It was like $5.1 million. Help me out here, Mac.
Well, I'm not sure what the total amount.
Okay, well, so the management fund to manage the Conservation 2020 properties has been static for the last couple of years. It's not gone up, even though we've been acquiring more properties. So some of the concerns we just wanted to share are, we've got some concerns about ATV fence cuts. We see quite a few of those. We're going to actually bring Mac some definitive pictures of where we've seen it. Not that their staff doesn't already know about it, but that's obviously something that needs to be funded. We've got some concerns about wildlife cameras, what happened with those, and with wildlife crossings, certainly with the larger projects that are coming up that are adjacent to some of our larger parcels. So again, we're going to present that to Mac specifically, but we would love for the whole committee to take that into consideration when he brings forward the management plan. So that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that comment. Thank you for getting that information to Mac as well. Would anyone else in the audience care to address the committee this time? Please come to the mic.
I just had a question.
Oh, wait a minute. You have to come up to the mic. Can't see you back there, sir.
I'm sorry.
And please state your name for the record.
My name is Ben Noel, and I'm a friend of the Eyes On Committee. I just had a question to the berm usage there, specifically probably at that one graphic you showed at the intersection of Bonita Grand and East Terry Street. And there was an impact that was highlighted in yellow. Is that representative of an easement or a property take? And if so, either way, are those acreages going to be reimbursed in somehow or fashion? Because that would be basically land acreage taken away from current 2020 lands.
Thank you for that comment. The exchange doesn't typically happen between the public and staff, but I will ask that question as well. Roland, the area that you showed in yellow, you'd mentioned that it is going to be utilized for that roundabout. Is there some compensation for the loss of that acreage, if you will, I believe was the question, or some compensation to 2020 for utilizing it?
There would be no compensation for it. It would be conveyed to the city, but working with the developer in this and working with the city, we will be gaining, don't like using buzzwords, but synergies. Part of it is a couple $1 million with the existing berm that is going around the perimeter of, Bonita Grand Mine.
Yeah.
And then there's going to, in their plating process and working with the city, we're looking for some potential alternative access points north of Bonita Grand that we don't currently have to Kiker Preserve.
So essentially the discussion about trade-offs and what, wrong word, but ensuring that the interests of 2020 are well protected.
There's a greater benefit being gained by the county than, what the value of this land would be, in that we get to manage the property in a less intrusive way, and the berming will be much less intrusive on county property and state properties.
Thank you. I'm familiar with that berm you're talking about. It exists, but it needs raised.
And you look at the greater benefit too. A little bit ago, we approved those crew lands, and that's, our goal is to fill in all those gaps out there. This will also enhance the hydro period, the wetlands out there. So looking at it, the bigger picture, not per se just the Conservation 2020 piece, but all that portions that are around 2020, that whole Flint Pen strand and crew, we believe there's going to be a greater benefit our contribution. So it's not a cash type of transaction, but there's a true benefit.
Thank you guys for that input. Would anyone else in public care to address the committee? Please come to the mic at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. The next item on our agenda is to set the next meeting date, which is Wednesday, November 15th at 5:30, I assume at the same location. And we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. We have a motion by Mr. Sun, second by Karen, or vice versa. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you guys very much.